Back on June 11th, we were gathered here and literally laid our hands on 10 of our young people and 2 chaperones and sent them off to, of all places, for a youth trip, Las Vegas, Nevada. They traveled all the way from Las Vegas to the U.S.-Mexican border in Nogales, and most of them are here this morning and want to share that experience with us. So as they come forward, they will say their names just in case you don't recognize them and tell us about their trip.
I'm Martha Garrels, and that's my husband, Stacy Garrels, and we chaperoned the trip. We had a great learning experience. There was a lot of eye-opening experiences that we had with topics like homelessness, and sex trafficking was one that was pretty eye-opening. We went, like Pastor said, from Las Vegas down to the Grand Canyon. We didn't have a lot of time there. And then we headed to Phoenix, and we spent some days in Phoenix. The big Synod group went to Tucson, and our group got to go on the bus down to Nogales, to the border. So that was, again, a pretty eye-opening experience. From the point of a chaperone, I just want to say you guys have great kids, and they were the best behaved group out of all the Synod kids, and I'm not lying on that. They were, one night, Stacy and I were out doing like room checks, and one of the other sponsors stopped us and said, "I need to talk to you." And I was like, "Oh no, what happened?" And they're like, "There's kids running around, boys chasing girls." And I'm like, "Our kids, we just woke up from doing room check, so it's not our kids." So you guys were a great group to work with, and Mr. Garrels and I are very honored to have been able to share this experience with them. So each kid is going to kind of go through, or group of kids, and they're going to tell you about each of our experiences, starting in Las Vegas and homelessness.
My name is Jessica Anderson, and when we were in Las Vegas, we went to this place called the Las Vegas Rescue Mission, and they kind of help homeless people that need a place to stay for a while, or just need a meal, or need clothes, or if they have like an addiction habit. And when we were there, we were in the kitchen, and we would help sanitize the tables getting ready for lunch, and we helped started helping cut sandwiches and getting fruit ready for lunch. And they kind of told us about what it's like when everybody comes through for lunch, because we didn't actually get to see when they came through. But it just seems really cool how there's just a place where they can all go for help when they need it, and just a place to stay when they have no other place to stay, just to stay safe. And there's other people that are having the same problem as them that they can just be with.
On the same topic of homelessness, so we had a tour guide, well, not necessarily a tour guide, but he kind of showed us around and helped us with things that we could do, and his name was Kevin. And so at the very end of the short time when we were there, he took us out, and we were getting ready to leave, and then we were he's like, "Okay, everyone, you guys can ask questions." And then they asked him about his story and how he got to help with the homelessness people. And he told us that he himself went to the same place in Las Vegas, and he was struggling, and he was homeless at one point. And me and Jessica both thought it was really, really cool that now he's like helping other people who are in his situation and he's giving back. Oh, and my name's Lindsay Wildman.
Okay, the next place we went was the Grand Canyon, and there was a little timing issue with the bus. So by the time we actually got there, our immersion project we couldn't do because of timing. So the kids did get to see the Grand Canyon, and the park rangers and we were supposed to help them like blaze new trails. And the trail group, they kind of showed us some stuff. So the next group's going to talk to you about what we saw at the Grand Canyon.
My name's Chloe Howell, and I think the day at the Grand Canyon, I think it really taught us patience because we were like late everywhere that day. But we got to see the Grand Canyon, and that was like really cool because you got to see like what God could create. And even though we didn't see it very long, it was still really cool to see.
Okay, well, my name's Maddie Gertz, and I thought the Grand... Okay, I'm a little taller. I thought the Grand Canyon was really cool because we had learned patience, and we would eat at like 3:30 there, which is like 5:30 here. So we all had to like learn to get along when we were all really hungry, which was really hard for some of us. I'm not gonna say names, but me. And then we also had like every night we'd go like back to like wherever church we were staying. We'd have like church, and we would like have like an icebreaker activity. We'd like learn about each other, which was fun because I like to talk to everybody. And we'd like sang all these cool songs. We'd always like hold hands and sing at the end, like this song this guy wrote. His name? What was his name? It's on my sheet. Oh, it was James. Okay, this guy named James, and he and he wrote this song, and we'd always like sing it together and hold hands and like sway back and forth, and that was really fun because then like it was like we were all like 250 of us. We were all like one big being, but there was 250 of us on this trip. And we always had church in different places, which was really cool too.
I must say that day that we drove to the Grand Canyon, the kids were very patient. I mean, we had 250 kids. When we all got together, there was 4 buses. We left Las Vegas at 8 in the morning, and we were supposed to get into the Grand Canyon at noon, but by the time we actually got there, it was 1:45, and we still hadn't ate lunch, and they gave us basically from 1:45 to 2:15 to use the restroom, go see the Grand Canyon, get back on the bus, and then we had another about half hour to get to where we're going to eat food, and the kids did a great job, but we didn't eat until, like they said, 2:45, 3 o'clock. Then we had about an hour and a half with the forest rangers there, and we kind of broke into groups. And then we got back on the bus and went to, not Phoenix, but Flagstaff first for supper, ate at Northern Arizona. We did a lot of that on the trip, ate at some of the universities. So then we ate at about 6:30, 7 o'clock at Northern Arizona University, got back on the bus for another 2.5 hours to Phoenix that night. And then the next morning we got up, and then the next day was sex trafficking, where the kids got to meet a couple of people who were involved in it, a couple of women who it just opened their eyes to the awareness of it. It's not just like the movies where somebody is just picked up and taken off of the street. I think that's the perception that sex trafficking has. But these women were kind of forced into it a different way, and so I'll let the next group talk.
Hi, I'm Lauren Matson, and one of the days on the trip was dedicated to spreading awareness about sex trafficking. And that day we walked from our hotel in Phoenix to one of the Lutheran churches that was just a few blocks away. And once there, we were greeted by a guy named Brandon and a girl named Brianna. And they started talking to us about Red Light Rebellion, which is a group that spreads awareness about sex trafficking. And we learned that sex trafficking isn't just something that happens in other countries or urban cities alone, but it's something that happens everywhere. And not only that, but we also got to hear firsthand stories. Leah Rogers, an author, mother, and a survivor of sex trafficking, spoke to us about her story. And it was really eye-opening to hear that something that horrific had happened to a human being. And later on that day, we traveled to a different part of the city for our immersion project, where we got to listen to another woman's story, Savannah. And her story was just as horrific as Leah's. Both had gone through so much, and yet they managed to see the good that the world brings and what they can do with the good. They're both mothers. Not only did this experience allow me to become an advocate for spreading awareness of sex trafficking in our community and my university this coming fall, but it also allowed me to see that even through the worst situations, there's a light at the end of the tunnel for each and every one of us.
I'm Collingers, and kind of like Lauren said, it's eye-opening. Like, you've never, you hear about it, but it's, not here. You think that it's just in big cities, but it's actually everywhere. It could be happening to anybody, and nobody would actually notice it, because most people don't like to talk about it because they're embarrassed. But it just happens to people, and it's awful, really.
The sex trafficking was on Wednesday, and then on Thursday we got up and got on the buses and drove down to Tucson, where we had service, and we had some people, a couple of ladies came up and talked about immigration, and then from there we went down to Nogales to the border for the afternoon.
Okay, well, first off, I'm going to define immigration for you. And it's coming to a foreign country to permanently stay and live. So, we went to Nogales, and we saw the border. And it was just really eye-opening to see all these people in Mexico. We were on the border, and we could see the people on the other side. It was just crazy. And we learned that, it's really hard to come to the United States, which is obvious. And people die when making the journey from, heat exhaustion and dehydration. And families get torn apart. And when they're traveling and trying to cross the border, they usually don't have proper shoes, and it's really hot out there, and their feet burn on the sand is what they told us. And the wall and the barrier, it's on the other side, it's very lively, and life just went on. We were standing there praying, but I don't know, it was kind of weird. It looked like they were in a cage, kind of. Yeah. It's a whole different world on the other side. And then when we were leaving, I thought it was a joke because we were leaving and we got stopped by the border patrol. We were all scared because I don't know, it was just weird. It was really scary. And then they came on and asked if we were all U.S. citizens. And yeah, it was kind of scary. Yeah, they wanted our passports and visas, and it was this big guy, and he had a gun, and we're just oh my gosh. It was scary.
Okay. Well, I thought it was really cool. Like she said, we could see people on the other side of the wall, and it basically cut the town that we went to in half, right through the middle, in the middle of a street. The other side of the street was in Mexico, and one side was in the United States. I thought that was really cool. And one of the ladies that was talking about immigration said that the applications for immigration to the United States from Mexico were backed up 20 or 30 years. So some people had to wait that long just to get into America, or else they had to come here illegally and they could get deported.
So as I said, there was a lot of eye-opening experiences for the kids and even for Stacy and I as adults. One thing we learned about the border is we thought the wall was all the way, and you can see it out in the countryside, and then what we learned is they use nature as a wall. So that's where the group that was advocating for the families of these people that are trying to come into our country for freedom, and they are taking the risk of their life to cross through that natural barrier to try to get freedom. And so it was pretty eye-opening. Lots of things were eye-opening for all of us. But I know on behalf of Mr. Garrels and I, we'd like to thank you for all of the donations and the time that you guys have given so that the students and we can go on that trip. Anybody else want to say anything else? We did have some fun also on this trip, so it wasn't all heartbreaking issues. A couple girls rode a crazy ride. We stayed at the Stratosphere in Las Vegas, and there's this spinny ride. I don't know, what was it called, girls? Insanity, which is appropriate, and it spins you over, like you're at the top of the Stratosphere, and they're spinning over Las Vegas. It was crazy. I have a video of it. Pastor, are we showing the PowerPoint or no during service? No.
Sure, we can do that.
Okay. Well, there's some pictures of the kids on the various things. So.
I just want to again say, Martha's already touched base on it, but the kids were great compared to a lot of the other groups that were there. Very patient. When you get 250 people together and you're trying to get on buses and get organized, it takes a little bit of time, and our kids were well behaved. Everywhere we went, we just want to thank you, parents, and thank you, everybody, for the donations. Again, Martha said it was a great experience for all of us, and we just want to know how much we appreciate it.